Hello everyone! In the last two episodes we visited the Roman Forum, the Palatine Hill, the Arch of Constantine, and the Colosseum. And from today until the end of the series from Rome, we will visit together only places that can be seen for free. Because Rome is a real open-air museum. We start today's trip on Via dei Fori Imperiali, which connects the Colosseum and Piazza Venezia, and is lined with a multitude of ancient sites and important monuments that we will see in today's video. If you want to see the first video in our series from Rome, in which we visit the Colosseum and the Arch of Constantine, you can check the card above or find it linked in the description. We're on the left side of the road, and from here we can admire a good chunk of the Roman Forum for free. And if you want another good vantage point for this archaeological site, you will find it on the Capitoline Hill. If you want to learn more about the history of the Roman Forum and the Palatine Hill, we'll leave you a link to our previous video in the description of this one and in the card above. We're entering the Basilica dei Santi, Cosma e Damiano, which is dedicated to the two Arab brothers, doctors, martyrs and saints, Cosma and Damian. The basilica is located in the Temple of Peace in the Roman Forum. It has the dignity of a minor basilica and can be entered from Via dei Fori Imperiali. Although it's not such a well-known tourist spot, the basilica has one of the largest domes in Rome and an ancient bronze door that is unique in the world. The area where the basilica is located today has been occupied since the Roman era by buildings of worship and social utility. It was in this very spot that Emperor Vespasian built a complex known as the Peace Forum, which included a small temple, fountains, and the Peace Library. Later, the Emperor Maxentius decided to expand the complex, and at the beginning of the 4th century, he built next to the library a large building with a round plain that had direct access from the Roman Forum. Legend has it that the temple was more than anything else a funerary monument, built by the emperor to worship his own son, who died prematurely, so the building was called the Temple of the Divine Romulus. Pope Felix IV dedicated the basilica to the two saints Cosmas and Damian, two doctors from Asia Minor, who in the name of God helped the poor and provided medical care to anyone in need. In contrast to the ancient cult of the Dioscuri, Castor and Pollux, who had been worshipped until the closure of the nearby temple located on the Roman Forum. We now enter the wing of the basilica called Presepio, in translation the baby's crib, a name that comes from the scene of the birth of Jesus Christ. The scene is created in the Neapolitan style, although it transports the birth into the 18th century Roman Forum from which it dates. It was donated to the basilica by the Neapolitan couple Enrico Cataldo and Raffaella Pericelli in 1939. After leaving the Basilica dei Santi Cosma e Damiano, we cross Via dei Fori Imperiali and go to see the statues of some of the most important figures in the history of ancient Rome. The first statue is that of Nerva, a Roman emperor with a rather short reign, between 96 and 98 AD, who succeeded Domitian after he was assassinated. In his short but significant reign, he brought about a big change, the principle of adoption. The law declared that the incumbent emperor should decide before his death his successor from within the Senate, so this made the senators much more accountable. And he also fused the ideas of empire, freedom and peace. beginning what was then considered a golden century. The next statue is of Augustus, considered the first emperor of Rome. He is also the emperor with the longest reign, between 27 BC and 14 AD, and was Caesar's adopted son. The last statue on this side is that of Trajan, the adopted son of Nerva, who ruled between 98 and 117 AD. Under Trajan, the Roman Empire reached its maximum territorial expansion, 5 million square kilometers. In parallel to the territorial conquest, Trajan remodeled the city of Rome, leaving as evidence numerous monuments, such as the large baths that were dedicated to him, as well as a large area that included a huge forum, which we are admiring now and which bared his name. Trajan's Forum, also referred to as Forum Ulpium in some sources, is the largest and most monumental of the imperial forums in Rome, and the latest in chronological order. Built by the Emperor Trajan with the spoils of war obtained from the conquest of Dacia and inaugurated in the year 112 AD, the Forum was laid out parallel to Caesar's Forum and perpendicular to the one of Augustus. The design of the structure is attributed to the ancient architect Apollodorus of Damascus. The complex, which is 300 meters long and 185 meters wide, includes a square, the Basilica Ulpia, and a porticated courtyard with 2 libraries and Trajan's Column, which was erected to celebrate the conquest of Dacia, today's Romania, by Emperor Trajan. In fact, it recalls all of the essential moments of the territorial expansion. The base of the column served as a tomb for the ashes of Emperor Trajan. This is the first Kohelid column ever erected. The monument contains 200 meters of continuous historical friezes that are rolled around the column 23 times, as if they were a scroll of papyrus or cloth, and carries about 100 to 150 scenes animated by about 2,500 figures. The size of the friezes increases with height, from 0.89 to 1.25 meters, to correct for the upward perspective distortion. The relief is divided into 114 panels of equal width, in which the events of the first campaign between 101 and 102 AD are captured in scenes 1 to 57, and the second campaign in Dacia from 105 to 106 AD is captured in scenes 59 to 114, and in the center is the allegorical figure of victory, among the trophies in the act of writing the triumph, which is captured in scene 58. If you want to see in detail each scene of the column, we're going to leave in the description a link to the website of the National Museum of Romanian History, and another link to an article in National Geographic. Both are fascinating. The next stop in today's excursion is at the Vittoriano Monument, or the Vittorio Emanuele II Monument, which we're not going to enter, but we can still enjoy it from the outside. If you'd like to enter it, you will need to buy a ticket. The monument was erected at the initiative of the Italian Parliament, which wanted to honor the memory of Vittorio Emanuele II, the first king of unified Italy, and the new Italian Renaissance period. The history of the building is a tumultuous one, with 3 design competitions and multiple design and material changes. The design of the Vittoriano monument was inspired by the great Hellenistic structures, such as the Shrine of Zeus in Pergamenon and the Sanctuary of Fortuna Primigena in Palestine. The Vittoriano monument was conceived as a vast and modern forum open to the public for visitation, located in a kind of elevated square in the historical center of Rome, organized as an agora on 3 levels connected by stairs, with visible spaces reserved for visitors to walk through. At the top of the monument is a majestic portico characterized by a long colonnade and 2 imposing propylae, one dedicated to the unity of the fatherland and another dedicated to the liberty of the citizens. Concepts metaphorically linked to the figure of Vittorio Emanuele II, who is in turn represented by an imposing equestrian statue, which was made with 50 tons of bronze obtained by melting the army's cannons. It stands 12 meters tall and 10 meters long. The Vittoriano thus became one of the symbols of the new Italian state, along with the monuments of ancient Rome and the Rome of the popes. In 1928, it was decided to develop the area adjacent to the Vittoriano by opening Via del Teatro di Marcello. This led to the dismantling of the church of Santa Rita d'Acacia in Campitelli. The work brought to light the island of Ara Coeli, an old Roman housing block dating from the 2nd century AD, and which is still visible today on the left side of the Vittoriano. The Ara Coeli Island is an important example of Roman domestic architecture. Distinct from the domus, which is the private residence of the upper class. The island was a block of flats housing many families. In Imperial Rome, the growing population of the city, the subsequent need for houses, and the lack of building land led to the construction of high-rise apartments, which became the most common form of residential buildings. And beyond the Ara Coeli Island is one of the staircases to the Capitoline Hill, and the entrance to the church of Santa Maria in Ara Coeli, which is a real gem. You can visit it for free, and we really encourage you to do this as it's mesmerizing. But due to the busy schedule, we've had to skip it this time around, and we're just passing by it to go to the Capitoline Hill, where we find the statue of the she-wolf with Romulus and Remus, the legendary founders of Rome, which is located near the senatorial palace. In front you can see the Capitoline Museum, although a place full of history that is worth visiting. As we promised you, today we'll show you only places and monuments that you can see for free. We are in Piazza Campidoglio, next to the equestrian statue of Emperor Marcus Aurelius, which is a copy, the original, a 4.24 meter high bronze statue from the Roman period, is a few steps away inside the Capitoline Museum. From here we'll go down the stairs, passing between the statues of the twin half-brothers Castor and Pollux from the Greek and Roman mythology. Their mother was Leda, but they had different fathers. Castor was the mortal son of Tyndareus, king of Sparta, while Pollux was the divine son of Zeus. The pair is thus an example of heteropaternal superfecundation. Although accounts of their birth vary, they were sometimes said to have been born from one egg, along with their twin sisters, Helena of Troy and Clytemnestra. Between the stairs that we've just descended and those that go up to the church of Santa Maria in Ara Coeli is the statue of Cola di Rienzo, a 14th century Roman politician, military leader, and anti-papal figure. From the bottom of the stairs we can see the Theatre of Marcellus, an open-air theatre in Rome that was completed in 13 BC and officially inaugurated in 12 BC by Augustus. The theatre was named after his nephew Marcus Claudius Marcellus, who died in 23 BC. From here we're going to Piazza Repubblica, where we'll discover the Basilica of Saint Mary of the Angels and Martyrs. This is a titulary church in Rome, built inside the ruined frigidarium of the Roman baths of Diocletian. It was built in the 16th century after an original design by Michelangelo Buonarroti. In Santa Maria dei Angeli, Michelangelo created a sequence of architectural spaces modeled after the shape of a Greek cross. At the beginning of the 18th century, Pope Clement XI commissioned the astronomer, mathematician, archaeologist, historian and philosopher Francesco Bianchini to construct a meridian line, a kind of sundial, inside the basilica. Completed in 1702, the object had a threefold purpose. The Pope wanted to verify the accuracy of the reformed Gregorian calendar, to produce an instrument that would accurately predict Easter, and last but not least, to provide Rome with a meridian line. From here we're going to the Basilica Santa Maria Maggiore. The basilica is also known as Our Lady of Snow. The name comes from the legend according to which, around the year 352, during the pontificate of Liberius, a Roman patrician named John and his wife, having no children, made an oath to donate their possessions to the Virgin Mary. They prayed that she would let them know how they would donate their property in her honor. And on August the 5th, at the height of the Roman summer, snow fell during the night on top of the Capitoline Hill, and on the same night the couple had a vision of the Virgin Mary. After which they've built the basilica in her honor, in the very place where it snowed that night. This church belongs to the Vatican, and according to the Lateran Treaty of 1929 between the Holy See and Italy, the basilica is on Italian territory and not on the territory of the Vatican State. However, the Vatican fully owns the basilica, and Italy is legally bound to recognize its full ownership and granted the immunity awarded by international law to the headquarters of diplomatic agencies of foreign states. In other words, the complex of buildings has a somewhat similar status to that of a foreign embassy. From here we're going to Bocca della Verità. In translation, the Mouth of Truth, a marble mosque leaning against the left wall of the portico of the church of Santa Maria in Cosmedin, in Piazza della Bocca della Verità, site of the ancient Forum Boarium, Rome's oldest cattle market. According to medieval legend, the mouth will bite the hand of any liar who dares put their hand in it, or anyone who tells a lie with their hand in the mouth of the mask. The massive marble mask weighed about 1,300 kilos and probably depicted the face of the sea titan Oceanus. Historians are not quite sure what the disc's original purpose was. It was probably used as a drain cover in the nearby Temple of Hercules, which had an oculus, a round open space in the middle of the roof, similar to that of the Pantheon, through which the rain penetrated inside. It is also believed that the cattle traders used it to drain the blood of the animals sacrificed to the god Hercules. We're also entering the Church of Saint Mary in Cosmedin, which is a minor church in Rome. The church was founded in the 6th century during the Byzantine rule of the city and was placed in the center of the Greek community in Rome. The church is to this day a Greco-Catholic one. Under the church is a crypt from the 8th century, perhaps the oldest example of such a crypt. The room has a rectangular plan. Along the side walls are 16 semicircular niches, originally used to house the relics of the saints. The remains of the stone podium from the altar of Hercules, the Invincible, are incorporated into the masonry. Corresponding to the central nave, there is a semicircular crypt, inside which is an altar from the 5th-6th century, found and placed there during the restoration work at the end of the 19th century, which contained the relics of Saint Cyril and is decorated on the sides with crosses in bas-relief. The relics of several saints are preserved inside of the basilica. Amongst them is the skull attributed to Saint Valentine, but he is not the same saint venerated on the 14th of February, and the head of the Saint Adauctus, as well as the heads of other martyrs. Across the road we can see the temple of Hercules victorious. From here we're going to the Circus Maximus, an ancient Roman chariot racing stadium and entertainment venue for the masses of Rome. located in the Murcia Valley between the Aventine and the Palatine Hills. It was the first and the largest stadium in ancient Rome and the Empire. It measured 621 meters in length and 118 meters in width, and it could accommodate over 150,000 spectators. The site is now a public park. In the early days of Rome, the valley would have been rich farmland, prone to flooding due to the Tiber River and the stream that traversed the valley. This stream would probably have been bridged at the 2 points where the track would have crossed it, and the first races would have been held in an agricultural landscape, with nothing more than turnpoles, banks where the spectators could stand, and some sanctuaries and sacred places. From Circus Maximus we cross the street and go to Rome's Aventine Hill, and for the first time we see the fountain at the entrance of Piazza Pietro di Liria, which is made up of two separate pieces, a Roman thermal bath and a monumental marble mosque, originally carved to adorn a fountain built in 1593 by Giacomo della Porta for a cattle market, Campo Vaccino, in central Rome. The mosque has a long history. After its dismantling in 1816 from the Campo Vaccino, it was recovered and from 1827 used to decorate the fountain erected on the right bank of the Tiber. This fountain was demolished in 1890 and the sculpture was kept in municipal storage until it was moved to its current location, next to the Basilica of Santa Sabina, the titulary minor basilica and mother church of the Roman Catholic Order of the Preachers, better known as the Dominicans. Santa Sabina is the oldest ecclesiastical basilica in Rome that preserved its architectural style. Its decorations have been restored to their original design. It is particularly famous for its doors carved out of cypress wood in 430–432 AD, with biblical scenes, the most famous being the first known public display of the crucifixion of Jesus Christ and the two thieves. The church was built on the site of early imperial houses, one of which is said to have belonged to Sabina, a Roman matron originally from Avezzano, in the Abruzzo region of Italy. Sabina was beheaded in 126 AD under the Emperor Hadrian, as she had been converted to Christianity by her servant Sarapia, who was also beheaded in 119 AD. Sabina and Sarapia were later on canonized as Catholic saints. The Church of Saint Sabina was built by Peter of Illyria, a Dalmatian priest, between 422 and 432, next to a temple of Juno on Rome's Aventine Hill. Santa Sabina is high on a hill above the Tiber near the Circus Maximus. It is located next to a small public park, Giardino degli Aranci, the Garden of Oranges in translation, where we're going now. The park has a picturesque terrace overlooking the Tiber and is a short distance away from the headquarters of the Knights of Malta. The Oranges Garden, in Italian Giardino degli Aranci, is the name used in Rome to describe Parco Savello, which covers an area of approximately 7,800 square meters and is located on the Aventine Hill. The park offers an excellent view of the city. The garden, as it is today, was designed in 1932 by Raffaele De Vico. It was designed to provide the public with access to Rome's existing viewpoints on the Pinician Hill and the Janiculum Hill. The garden, whose name comes from the many bitter oranges that grow there, stretches over an area of an ancient fortress, built near the Basilica of Santa Sabina by the Savelli family between 1285 and 1287, which in turn was built over an older castle, built by the Crescenti in the 10th century. The garden is bordered by a wall that once surrounded the Savelli castle, and other remains of the castle can still be seen. We'll move on from here and pass by the church of San Luigi dei Francesi, which is a Roman Catholic church near Piazza Navona. The church is dedicated to the patron saints of France, Virgin Mary, Saint Dionysius, the Areopagite, and the Saint King Louis IX of France. It is the national church of France in Rome. And now let's discover the Pantheon, or the Temple of all the Gods, a former Roman temple built on the site of an even older temple erected by Marcus Agrippa during the reign of Augustus, between 27 BC and 14 AD. The temple was rebuilt by Emperor Hadrian around 127 AD. The date of its rebuilding is uncertain, however, as Hadrian chose not to inscribe the new temple, but rather to preserve the inscription of the old temple of Agrippa, which had burned. The building is cylindrical with a portico of large granite Corinthian columns. A large rectangular vestibule connects it to the rotonda, which is under a coffered concrete dome, with a central opening to the sky, called the oculus. Almost 2,000 years after it was built, the dome of the Pantheon is still the largest unreinforced concrete dome in the world. The height to the oculus and the diameter of the chamber inside are the same, 43.2 meters. The architecture of the Pantheon is unique even for the Roman period. It is one of the best preserved out of all the ancient Roman buildings, largely because it was in use continuously throughout history. From the 7th century, it became the church dedicated to Saint Mary and the Martyrs, but it was known informally as Santa Maria Rotonda. The Pantheon is under state property, and in 2013 it was visited by over 6 million people. Two kings of Italy are buried in the Pantheon: Vittorio Emanuele II, father of the fatherland, and Umberto I, as well as Umberto's wife Margherita. It was supposed to be the final resting place for the monarchs of Italy, of the House of Savoy, but the monarchy was abolished in 1946, and the authorities refused to grant burial to the former kings who died in exile, Victor Emmanuel III and Umberto II. And for the moment we're going to stop in Piazza Rotonda, in front of the Pantheon, where we'll meet you again in 2 weeks to continue the walk through the streets of Rome. There are still so many free places and monuments to see that we can't fit them all in one episode. If you've enjoyed today's walk, don't forget to subscribe to the channel by smashing that subscribe button. Share this video with others and leave it a like if you've enjoyed it. And in the next episode we'll go together to see the Trevi Fountain, Piazza Navona and the St. Angelo Castle.